I think as we look at what types of licenses we intend to issue, our goal is going to be to ensure the safety standards at the processing level versus, in the marijuana space, it's very tightly controlled. There's licenses at every stage. They use the metric system. We want to track things from seed to sale, as they say. I don't think that type of oversight is as necessary on the hemp side of things. And
let's talk about the power of hemp, from the farm field to finished goods. Learn all about it at the 2022 Midwest iHemp Expo, May 20th through 21st at the Lansing Center. Visit MidwestIHempExpo.com. See you there. All right, welcome to the iHemp Hour. My name's Dave Craybill. I'm with iHemp Michigan. iHemp Michigan's mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp here in Michigan. We're talking about hemp and cannabis today with Andrew Brisbo, who is the head of the Michigan Regulatory Agency that is soon to be the Cannabis Regulatory Agency. So we have a lot to dive into. Andrew, welcome to our show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. So this executive order came out just a week ago, and I imagine your phone's been a little busy since then.
Well, my phone's always busy, so I'm just hearing from new and interesting people now.
Oh, there we go. All right. So tell us about what's going on in your view, Andrew. What's this change mean for hemp and cannabis?
So this is the culmination of conversations that have been ongoing for quite a while, really since the federal farm bill passed, and we've been working with the Department of Agriculture here in Michigan to look at, broader issues of cannabis, not differentiating between marijuana and hemp in some circumstances. And we've had a really good partnership with the Department of Agriculture that's been a great complement to our regulatory oversight, leveraging their expertise on things like pesticide use and food safety concerns related to infused edible products. So when they were working through the Industrial Hemp Research and Development Act and the eventual evolution to the Industrial Hemp Growers Act, there was always a conversation that, they needed to get a program in place that complied with the USDA requirements for the agricultural side of the hemp industry. And that led to that act, but knew they would need to evolve then to what happens after harvest, the processing of industrial hemp and the production of industrial and consumable products. And as they really started to dig into that, our discussion was really they wanted to leverage some of the same systems we had in place, understand how we got to where we were with testing requirements and production standards and so forth, and came to realize that they were going to end up trying to enact legislation and make changes that were essentially just duplicating what we already had in place, and thought more and more as time has gone on, we see intersections between industrial hemp and marijuana under that broader cannabis umbrella. And it just made a lot of sense to, commingle those within our agency while leaving the agricultural piece of it on its own. So transitioning under the executive order, which will take effect, I think April 13th, will handle everything sort of post-harvest. And I've been working with legislators and stakeholders to understand, the issues around CBD, the existing bill package that's now in the Senate, and sort of the structures that we hope to create in terms of how we license folks who are post-harvest, who are processing hemp, who are selling hemp-infused consumable products, particularly look at industrial products being manufactured, and how we can support businesses in Michigan, but also recognize that much different than the marijuana side, this is an interstate market, not an intrastate market, which adds some new wrinkles to it as well. So having great conversations, we have actions to take pretty quickly. The existing systems that MDARD had in place under the Industrial Hemp Research and Development Act will just move over to our agency. We're not going to make any changes to that. That's not the intention. We're going to look toward proactive policy in order to really build things out and set up how the system will work in the future.
So is a dividing line then, if it's a consumable product in terms of hemp, whether it's CBDs or smokable hemp or whatever, that then goes to you and then everything else stays with MDARD, or how does that play out?
Well, it would really be anything past the growing stage that would be in our purview. But I think we're definitely looking to focus on standards for consumable products. Obviously, the concerns about health, safety, and welfare are much different if you're talking about a CBD product that's used medicinally, or if it's a hemp-infused food product versus rope or textiles or other kind of industrial products. Those don't carry the same concerns. So that would all be within our purview. Like I said, I think there's some work we need to do legislatively, and then we'll probably have some rules that will supplement that as well.
Is it primarily the regulation of Delta 8 and these other cannabinoids conversions that push this issue?
I think that definitely shined a light on it for sure, as we started to see some of these hemp derivatives, the effects of marijuana products. And the purpose of us regulating those is that there are health concerns, not only for consumable products in general, but obviously those that are intoxicating. And so, yes, that definitely exposed a gap in Michigan and every other state, as well as at the federal level, that you now have cannabis-derived products that are not regulated as marijuana that have those same effects as Delta-9 THC. So that was one thing we worked collectively on, both our agency and MDARD, and worked with legislative partners to shift the definitions, the very definitions of what is hemp and what is marijuana within that cannabis market, to include all of those THC isomers like Delta-8 and 7 and 10 and so forth.
I know this is a federal question, but heck, I'll ask you anyway. There's a lot of folks that are advocating for, on the hemp side, that the THC level go up to 1%. What's your thinking on that? Do you have any positions on that?
I don't have any immediate thoughts. I think some science behind what is or isn't intoxicating would be helpful, which obviously has variability depending on the person and their tolerance and their body composition and so many other things. I think one of the things that we do need to look at is in-process hemp and what are the concentration levels that are permitted for that process. We know that the plants can only be 0.3% THC on a dry weight basis. Any more than that, they've got to be destroyed. We know that there are restrictions on how much THC can be in the consumer products. We have some rules moving through now as well that would set THC limits for specific products beyond the 0.3% concentration as well. But when you're in process, obviously those concentration levels are going to change, right? If you're doing extraction and coming out with THC and CBD distillate, it's almost certainly at some point in that process going to exceed that 0.3%. That's I don't know how you could do it otherwise. So those are some things we need to look at, in terms of raising that level more broadly. If it's for consumer products, I think we really need to look at the science and see, are these products could be intoxicating? Because I think it's always been clear that wasn't the intent.
Dave, I got a question there in the Q&A. I'll bring that up.
Yeah, they're asking about Delta-8 topicals, which I didn't even know that was a thing. That's interesting.
So what the question is that they're interested in Delta-8, primarily topicals. They want to see where regulation's going. Where do you think it's going for that? It's their understanding recently deemed illegal to sell in the state. So I think Delta-8 is okay to sell, but it needs to be in the metric. Is that how we have the system right now?
So Delta-8 now is a THC isomer that falls in the definition of marijuana. So it's regulated like marijuana is. What we don't have are any approved processes within the regulated market now for producing Delta-8 through that isomerization process and converting CBD. The amount of bioavailable Delta-8 within plants it makes it very unlikely that anything that's available is naturally derived. So it's being synthesized through that conversion process. We've been allowing research to be conducted by marijuana processors to convert CBD primarily to Delta-9, but that same research process could be used for Delta-8 as well. The rule set that we just had the hearing on 216, one of the main topics there was a process by which processors could get approved to convert CBD to THC. So it's technically not illegal. It's regulated like marijuana, but there is no pathway at this point to engage in those processes to get those products to market.
So
one of those things we need to address that as we move forward here and get that. so that product could be available through the marketplace then. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've had any requests, to my knowledge, from processors to make Delta 8. They've really been focusing on trying to manufacture the Delta 9 converted from CBD. I think I'm not a scientist, but I think it's easier to convert to Delta 8. It's a little trickier because you have to, I think, stop the process at just the right point to come out with Delta 9. But if you just keep letting it go, then you get to Delta 8.
Well, my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that Delta 8 is still going to exist, but it's going to move under your purview. Is that correct?
Correct. So if we get processors who can demonstrate that they can safely convert the CBD to the Delta 8 and make products out of that, then it will be the Delta 8 distillate will kind of be a raw product that then will be utilized to make various types of products. And then those consumer products would just have to meet with the standards that we have for any other cannabis derived consumable product.
So let's talk about marijuana licensing for just a second, because you have the micro license and you have a new Class A micro license that allows for those businesses to pull from processors outside of, they can, like expands their product capability, right?
Yeah, so the original micro business, the one that was defined by statute, allows someone, it's small and has to be vertically integrated. So those licensees grow 150 plants at the most, and then they can process and sell only what they produce on site. And they can transport for the sake of testing that has to be done through the safety compliance facilities. A lot of the feedback that we got on that license type was that it's small, but it's complex. You're really engaging in 3 different processes, and all the same scientific principles and investment in equipment for processing you'd have to have there as the same as if you were a large vertically integrated operator. And we heard concerns that it's not enough biomass to be, if you have one bad crop, you're sort of sunk. So the cost of the processing equipment and then the scale was a challenge, because you also need a variety of products if you're going to retain customers, right? You can't just sell flour. So in response to that, this new license type is kind of halfway between the small micro business and vertically integrated operation on a larger scale. So they can grow 300 plants, but they're not allowed to do processing. So basically, if you have the skills as a grower and you want to run a retail operation, you grow your plants, you sell your own flour, but then you can purchase manufactured goods from any other processor. And so we're always kind of looking at ways that businesses can enter the market and continue to grow. So I think the nice piece of this license type is, if you have the skills to be a grower and you're selling your flour or your trim, and then you're bringing in manufactured goods, so you have a variety of products. But if you scale up and want to continue to grow, you could get your own processor license then, which is good. You're going to pay full freight for that as any other processor. But then you could, slowly work your way into a larger vertically integrated model if you chose.
Now, also, I'm a little confused on if you got a micro license, whether it's the old one or the new one, can you just have one retail outlet, or can you have multiple retail outlets? That's where I'm a little confused.
You would just have the one retail outlet because you can't wholesale. So even if you got another truly retail license, you wouldn't be able to supply yourself. You would have to then get products from someone else. There is a statutory limitation on the micro business that only allows you to have an investment in one. But as of the 1st of next year, the agency can promulgate a rule that will allow you to have multiples. But then, each one would independently have to supply its own product to itself.
And that's about $14,000 to get involved in that, $6,000 app fee and $8,000 license.
Yeah, the small micro is the $8,000 license. I think it's $8,300, and then the Class A micro is $18,400. But the application fees also went down, so those are only
$18,000.
Correct.
Oh, okay, so that's one of the big concerns, and in our conversation you addressed it, but let's deal with that here, because in the hemp side, we're not used to, we're dealing with farmers, and they're not used to paying to grow a crop. And, they can make all these things that we don't ingest, frisbees and insulation and all this kind of stuff. What are we going to see with the fees? Are we going to have an industry here in Michigan?
So the fee structure for the grower license will stay with MDARD. So I don't see any signs that they're changing that. I do think that the cost structures have to support the regulatory oversight. But I think they'll be significantly less as we do the math on the hemp side than they are on the marijuana side. Marijuana, because of the nature of the products being intoxicating, there's a high level of regulation. We do a lot of work in the field in terms of inspections and investigations, maintaining the metric system. There's several of our employees that just work on that and helping support licensees to use that system and keep it up and running. A lot of that won't be the same on the hemp side. It'll be much lighter touch in terms of regulation because we're not talking about intoxicants. So I think you could expect to see a fee structure that's much more in line with what the fees are at MDARD now versus what the fees are at the MRA for marijuana licenses.
Now, one of the good things we have going in Michigan is we still have smokable hemp flower that's legal to sell. Our friends in Indiana have banned it, so those businesses are struggling because that's the highest value crop they have to sell. Can we sell into the metric system as hemp growers?
So once we get into, there's as it stands now, if someone's licensed under the Industrial Hemp Research and Development Act to do that processing, that works. I don't think we intend to even require the metric system on the hemp side. So
okay.
I think that it maintains what we do want to do is implement some testing requirements beyond just testing for THC concentration. I think if you look at the package of bills that's in the Senate now, that lays out some testing regime very similar to what we were working on behind the scenes. Just looking for contaminants, heavy metals, residual solvents, and so forth, which can be harmful, particularly when you're smoking it. Some of the pesticides that have been used historically on cannabis plants, when combusted, can cause concerns. Like myclobutanol, when it's combusted, converts to some carcinogenic, very dangerous substances. So I think we'll want to do some testing there, but what's in that bill is very close to what we had intended to pursue.
I was going to talk about this during my news break, but heck, I got you right in front of me, and I wanted to hear your opinion, so I'll just start early. House Bill 5877 that's been dropped in would deschedule cannabis as a Schedule 1 and 2 drug here in the state of Michigan. Do you have any thoughts about that? I would imagine you're not opposed to that, right?
Well, we have to take a look at it and make sure we understand what the implications might be. Probably coordinate also with the Board of Pharmacy over in the Bureau of Professional Licensing. So I haven't had a chance yet to really dig into it to see what all the impacts might be. I think I understand the basic premise there, but want to make sure we evaluate all the consequences of any of those legislative changes. And I guess we'll hear about it when there's committee testimony on it as well, so we make sure we understand all sides.
Yeah, because if as long as it's still Schedule 1 on the federal level, I don't know why that would make any real difference. Maybe I'm missing something here, right?
Well, under the Michigan Regulation, Taxation, and Marijuana Act, it indicates that marijuana is legal, and also has language that any other act in the Michigan compiled laws that conflicts with that act don't apply to the permissions and allowances under that act. So I agree on its face. I'm not exactly sure what the impact would be, but I'm sure the folks pushing for the bill can help us stay informed on that. And then we just have to analyze that and determine what our position on it will be.
We have one other question, I think, maybe before we go to break here a little bit real soon. What is the current standing on selling Delta 8 products through e-commerce?
So, like I said before, Delta 8 products are marijuana in Michigan. So it would not be legal to sell marijuana online into Michigan. The only businesses that are allowed to sell those products in Michigan would be the businesses licensed by the MRA on the marijuana side.
But we do have some good news coming on the e-commerce side for those selling hemp products. But let's hold that till after the break. We want to thank our sponsor, the Midwest iHemp Expo. May 20th and 21st, we'll be hanging out, learning, and hanging with our hemp friends and doing a lot of education.
Cannabis friends too, don't forget us. Right?
And the cannabis, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're hemp and cannabis. May 20th and 21st at the Lansing Center.
Yep.
So we're really looking forward to this event. And Blaine, you said we just had a a new member join and buy a couple booths. You want to
Yeah,
give a shout out to them?
Yep, want to give a quick shout out to American Biochar. Let me see if I can bring up their. Can I share, Dave?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're new members. We just and they. Just a second, I'm learning technology myself, Dave.
All right. Well, let's make it quick, buddy.
Even as we speak. Here we
TikTok.
go. How's that?
No,
Show up now?
not
Oh,
yet.
we still see you.
Okay, well then we'll come back to that. But it was a
Gotta
Marilyn
love live
Biochar
shows, huh?
company. They are learning. I'm learning. But yeah, but so the expo I want to talk about too. One of the things we have going on there is on May the 19th. I want everybody to be aware of that. Since we're partnering with ASA, Americans for Safe Access with us, they're going to have some training available for caretakers that so that they can keep registered and do their caregiving that they do and their documentation and certificates. Also, we're going to have Peter Nielsen is going to be doing a talk on about getting third-party audited. So currently, if you aren't third-party audited with the U.S. Hemp Authority seal or a third-party audit, we're going to teach everybody how to do that, the importance of doing that, and why to do that. So that's going to be on the 19th, so the day before. Thursday night, we're going to have a meet and greet that's going to happen, and we're thanking the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. They're helping us host that event. So that's Thursday night. That's free for all at the Radisson Hotel. And then we kick off 2 days of excellence of exhibitors and fun and all the training that's going to be right now. I thought we were going to have less speakers than our first conference day, but I'm not sure.
I know the list keeps growing. We've been updating it. There's a draft agenda. Just check it out when you have a chance.
And then, of course, Friday night is going to be the fun event. That's going to be the Hempies Award. So anybody that's making anything with hemp-related, industrial hemp-related product, whether it be like the wall back there behind Dave, whether it be the
hempwood,
whether it be the oil that I make or gummies or whatever, if you're making stuff out of industrial hemp, you're welcome to apply for that. And it's a fun little contest. And Friday night we'll be giving away awards for that. So also we're doing King Cola contest. So if any of you happen to have any of your large buds that you have from when you grew a few months ago, you can enter into a fun contest, kind of like when you go to the county fair and you bring your biggest squash or your biggest corny or whatever, that kind of thing. So just a lot of fun for those 2 days. The information up there, we've got March Madness going on right now. And you can get a substantial discount on either booths and or the all access pass for that. So,
and I'm hoping that Director Brisbo will be there as well, right? Do you have him lined up as a speaker? I mean, you got him right in front of you right now. So
we have him scheduled.
All right, good to know. So
him and Molly are going to be kicking off the whole party on Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
so,
that's
good. They are the kickoff speakers. Yes, they are.
All right, good to know.
Yeah. One of the other things, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about this later because I know we're time frame. We want to make sure everybody gets their questions in, and we honor Andrew's time for sure because he has other meetings today. But there is one of our friends over in Poland, Kirk Ryder from Hemp Today, digital magazine they put out, and they've been doing a little fundraising for the Ukraine. A little bit of background on his wife. His wife was a refugee that went into Poland and then came over to the U.S. and they got to meet each other, and now they are in love and they're in Poland. And they have this bed and breakfast there. Basically, they do a lot of hemp training and things. But the bottom line is they've taken in some of the refugees from the Ukraine, and they're doing a little fundraiser for that. And over the last when they started 2 days, they had already raised $15,000 to help.
Wow.
So, a lot of times you want to give money to things and you don't know where the money goes. And this is a situation where we know exactly where this money is going. We know Kurt and his wife's heart on this. And so we'll get some information up on the website if you want to donate a little to help out there. So, Dave, I got a lot of the news, but I think I'll wait. Let's go
Mike, let's let Mike share a little bit of cannabis news.
And if you don't get enough of Andrew in this hour, he's going to be on my show in the next hour. He'll be on at 1:30 to 2 on 420 Post. And I'll get you the information. It's pretty easy to find. We're on Facebook, streams live. But anyway, the news. So back in September, a Canadian company named Terra Ascend announced that they were going to purchase Gage Cannabis, Gage Growth, for $545 million. According to a press release I got yesterday, they're hoping to close that deal today. And then we have a Canadian operator that'll be involved in Michigan. I'd like to hear Andrew's thoughts on that. Then also, Leafly came out with a survey just recently, and I think we're a little behind the times on it, that shows Michigan has the third largest cannabis jobs in terms of raw numbers. As we all know, $1.8 billion last year in adult sales that generated 31,152 jobs. And so we had Andrew on my show back in December. He's thinking maybe $3 billion this year or so, give or take. And so obviously you got to staff up for those sorts of things. And then I made mention earlier in the show, there is that House bill floating around that I don't quite understand that would deschedule cannabis as in the above 0.3 THC in Michigan. But again, a lot of stuff to figure out on that one. And how does that play off against the federal regs and all that jazz? So I'll keep it short because I know Andrew's got to run off to a meeting, and then my team gets him at 1:30. So he's probably going to get a lunch in there or something, right? So all right, back to you, Dave.
Sure. So I want to start out, so everybody understands that an executive order, if you want to find the executive order that was put out, it's executive order number 2022-1 is where that is. And then you also, if you want to kind of see how that ties in, I'm not sure if this is still available. I hope it is, but there's a Department of Licensing and Regulation Affairs, Marijuana Regulatory Agency, Industrial Hemp Rules for Marijuana Businesses. Dated January 18th, 2022. So those are the kind of the two important things if you wanted to do some homework on your own for that. So want to thank you very much, Andrew. You've been so gracious, and we've been able to talk to you. I got to say it's refreshing to be able to do that. We appreciate that. And you've been as transparent as you can be with this whole thing, which I think has been very good. And also, there is a list of frequently asked questions in case we don't hit all of the questions that you have today on the website. And so you can look at some of the questions there that might address some of your concerns on it.
Yeah, I can link that up in the show notes.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
So on the e-commerce side, in our conversation the other day, Andrew, I was excited to hear that if you're selling other people's hemp products, if you're not producing the hemp products, but you're a marketer of hemp products, that you're not requiring a license for that now.
I think as we look at what types of licenses we intend to issue, our goal is going to be to ensure the safety standards at the processing level versus, in the marijuana space, it's very tightly controlled. There's licenses at every stage. They use the metric system. We want to track things from seed to sale, as they say. I don't think that type of oversight is necessary on the hemp side of things. And, recognizing that lots of those hemp products are already available for sale all over the state. I don't know if it's worth and get everyone licensed. So I think we're going to focus on the controls at the manufacturing stage to require some testing. And that still gives us the ability then, if there are any adverse health reactions or reports of contaminated product, that we can go back to the producers and say, okay, we got to figure out where these products are now so we can, if we need to issue a recall or do consumer notifications. And I think that's a mechanism that can be easily triggered. Excellent.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because that's when we were first getting on Earth Day 2019, when we're getting our license. Somebody asked about the question, well, what about Rite Aid and Walgreens where they're selling it? Do they all have to? And there was like the deer in the headlights look, so it makes sense. You can't chase all those outlets.
And certainly when we think of the marijuana products that are available, there's strict controls on the medicinal side as to who can purchase. Obviously, we want to keep those things out of the hands of minors. So those concerns aren't present on the hemp side of things.
Yeah, and we're really promoting and focusing on, like Blaine was talking about, those GMP processes, good processes. So we have certified products available in the state and with, good quality control.
We want to make sure everybody's getting safe product. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think implementing, and that's something that we're slowly rolling out of the marijuana side as well. It's having good agricultural collection practices, having good manufacturing practices just makes our jobs easier as regulators as well, because we know there's some external oversight of ensuring that standards are met. And that's been something that in the marijuana space has kind of slowly evolved, that we look at testing failures. The safety compliance testing should be a validation of what occurred in the processes and that things are safe. And so we tend to, or have at least historically, look at test failures, and people want to talk about why it failed, what they can do with it now, whether the testing standards are appropriate, versus looking at the process and trying to refine the process to ensure that products are going to pass anyway. And that's where we want to get. But all of this is fairly new. So we're all kind of working and learning together and trying to develop best practices.
Well, the big hope is that on the fiber and grain side, because we had this conversation where if anything's GRAS, what's that stand for, Blaine?
Generally recognized as safe.
So like Blaine's hemp seed oil, we don't have to worry about that. It's just the normal, testing that has to be done anyhow. But, the fiber and the grain, our farmers should be able to grow that without paying a fee like they do in Canada. We don't need a lot of regulatory oversight for that. So I'm hoping we get to that point, because that's what we're going to need to be competitive.
Yeah, and that's still going to fall within the Department of Agriculture, and I think this is all there's a constant evolution here to learn and understand more. The testing on the hemp agricultural side is really just to ensure that it's not the manufacturer of marijuana, that it's staying within the hemp purview. But I think as science and knowledge grows, the regulatory system can continue to evolve right along with it.
Yeah, we probably need the federal legalization of cannabis that's probably the difference between Canada and the U.S.
Andrew, I know you're not a prognosticator. You don't have a crystal ball, but there has been a lot of talk about on the federal level of descheduling. And I know that you're the national, I don't remember the exact title, but you run a national group of folks that do the work that you do. What is the thinking on that? Do they think the feds are finally going to come around to this at some point? Because we're at 19 legal states now, and I think there's 5 or 6 or more on the ballot this November. So we're almost halfway there, right? So do you think the feds are going to come around on this or not?
Yeah, so I'm the president of the Cannabis Regulators Association, which is a coalition of, I think we're up to 43 states and territories now that have some form of legalized cannabis. And we're seeing more and more overlap on the hemp side as well. So, with the purview of our agency shifting, and we get membership from state departments of agriculture as well that participates. MDARD here participates in some of our subcommittees there. Molly's involved on the cannabinoid hemp subcommittee that we have. It is really hard to tell. I would have said 2 years ago, we're almost certainly going to see incremental federal cannabis reform. Banking seemed like the thing that might move. It still might, but that's been a years-long slog. Senator Schumer has indicated that he wants to see, wholesale reform, which obviously anytime you're trying to do something of that nature, looking at decriminalizing, rescheduling, dealing with social equity issues and interstate commerce all at once, is very challenging. And I just don't think that there's a lot of good understanding at the federal level about state level programs and how cannabis is regulated, because the federal approach has been, prohibition and abstinence and even very little research that would be incredibly beneficial to state regulators who are developing policy. So our goal as an organization has just been to be a resource. We have productive discussions with FDA and TTB, USDA, policymakers in their offices, so that they can understand state level approaches. Because ultimately, when it happens and the federal government shifts cannabis policy, they're going to go through the same trials and tribulations that every state has gone through. I mean, that's a core reason we formed this organization, so that as more states move forward with cannabis policy reform, they could lean on us for lessons learned, because states that legalize now deal with all the same issues. If you go back to Colorado, they have those same issues Colorado had from 2012, but they also have the same issues that Michigan and Colorado faced in 2022, and it just hits them all at once. So you need folks you can rely on to have an understanding, and usually those aren't within the state that you're in because it's novel there. And we think the same thing will happen at the federal level. So I think we've really been trying to focus on building those relationships, helping to be a resource. We're not advocating for or against certain versions of policy reform at the federal level, but more trying to lend our perspective as to how things might be impacted and have some ideas in terms of how things could be done, depending on the approach chosen by the feds.
Going back to a few of the questions and answers, I'll just hit on those. We've got just a few more minutes left here, but so some of these on here is, and I know the answers to these, but will my current industrial hemp processing handler license be valid?
Yes. What will happen at some point in the future as we create the new licensing system with some legislative changes, then we'll transition those licenses under the Industrial Hemp Research and Development Act for processor handlers over to this new system. So we'll try to be communicative to the existing license holders. The good news is, since those processor handler licenses are coming over to our agency, we'll already have that contact information for the 200 plus licensees there. And then we'll talk to them about how we'll make that transition.
Now, part of this executive order where we read into that, where dispensaries can pull hemp products in from other states as well as from Michigan, where marijuana side, it's a closed loop system just in Michigan, from my understanding. Are there any thoughts to have the hemp farmers be competitive in Michigan? Because currently the cost to grow is lower in other states than in Michigan.
I think we always want to support Michigan businesses. Obviously, that's a core function, but we do have to deal with interstate commerce on the hemp side. It wouldn't be possible for us to prohibit import. Federal supremacy and the dormant commerce clause would prevent us from saying you can't import these products. But we do want to make sure that we have similar standards, so we're not putting Michigan farmers in a challenging position where it's actually beneficial to be in another state. So the consistency of standards there, trying to make Michigan a leading market in terms of consumer safety, I think ultimately does help state level businesses. Some of those farmers in other states, if they're used to dealing with markets that don't have standards, they may find it too competitive in order to enter the Michigan market. So, and I think our discussions with the Department of Agriculture have been around ways in which we can support the agricultural side of both industries in Michigan and allow it to flourish.
Yeah, and cannabis is the number 3 crop now in Michigan. So it's certainly making its mark on our economy.
To be sure, and there are so many benefits from that. Like I was saying earlier, the media coverage around the data that we put out as an agency tends to be around what was the dollar value of all the sales. How many millions was it this month? How much tax revenue was generated? But I think Mike even had some old numbers on jobs. We have 37,000 jobs in the marijuana industry in Michigan. We track everybody who works at a licensed marijuana facility has to be in the statewide monitoring system. So we have great.
Blame Leaf Fly for that then. So go ahead.
But 37,000 jobs. That's a lot of good paying, stable jobs in the state of Michigan. And so that's just one tangential benefit beyond just direct revenue that I think needs more exposure and have people understand what's happening at local levels as well. On the hemp side, you have now another agricultural output for farmers that they can explore. On the marijuana side, we see a lot of revitalization of communities that have lost, particularly like manufacturing industry locations, now can be reused in this new industry. So all those benefits, I think, on the economic side need to be explored.
Do you have any plans or anything in the budget to help with doing some education? Because I think that's what really needs to be done. We have so many cities, townships, municipalities that don't want to play. They don't understand it. And we need to really put a push on education about what's available and possible with this crop.
Well, and the other thing, just to interrupt real quick, hemp is tarred with the same brush as cannabis. People don't even understand they're really, yes, it's the same plant, but they're used for entirely different purposes, right? So
I saw a research study that was done out of the University of Waterloo up in Canada that included Michigan participants as well. And so they kind of dissected the data into the responses from Canadians, responses from U.S. States where we had, just medical legalization, full adult use legalization, or still prohibition. And some of the interesting facts that I took away from that were that consumers themselves don't fully understand the terminology. What's the difference between marijuana, hemp, cannabis? They don't necessarily have a good understanding, even if they're regular consumers, about the levels of THC in products and what it means. So I do think our agency has always been committed to outreach and education and collaboration with all the constituencies. So that's consumers, that's industry operators, and it's also local units of government. For example, we recently produced a 2-hour video that we published on our website, specifically geared toward municipal officials, because they ask us a lot of questions when it comes to their marijuana ordinances. How should they go about it? Is it a good idea? How do we avoid getting sued? What are best practices? And we're obviously not in a position to give legal advice to local municipalities, but we're also not the experts on what the best ordinances are. And that may not be the same for all municipalities. So we brought in people who could speak to them peer to peer. We had local government officials. We had attorneys who have assisted local units of government with implementing ordinances so they could answer some of those key questions. And I think on the hemp side of things, we can do a lot of that as well and really talk about the differences there. Make sure they understand what's happening at the state level, what laws might apply to how they can regulate things in the ways that they choose at the local government level, and just be a resource to provide that information. Oftentimes, it's just about not knowing how to navigate things at the state level for some of those local government officials, because this is all new to them too. And in particular, I always think of some of the poor folks that are on their township board of supervisors. They're just trying to do their part to, be engaged in local government. And then they got hit with this marijuana ordinance stuff. And they realized, I didn't intend to get in the middle of a political quagmire here. We have a lot of people in expensive suits showing up at these, township board meetings. And that's all new to them as well. So I think it's important that we provide some of those resources.
Okay, good. Blaine, any more questions come in?
I don't think so. Again, I just want to thank you for being so accessible and transparent and easy to talk to. We appreciate that very much. We'll look forward to having you at the Expo to be able to talk to people there. That's going to be a fun thing too. And we'll look forward to partnering with you and helping out with a weekend with our expertise and our members to make this a great program here in Michigan for everybody. I think that's truly everybody's intent here. So appreciate that.
Yeah, we have all the same goals. So I'm excited to come to the events. I'll be at the event in Saranac this summer as well. It's important for me to get out there and hear all those perspectives. So I hope all of you that are at those events come up and say hi. I'll be there shaking hands, kissing babies.
All right.
Yes, the politician stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if the kissing baby thing has been good for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
might want to think about that.
All right, I'm going to have to jump too, because we're going to have Andrew on my show in about 45 minutes, and so I got to gear up. So thanks.
Mike, where do people find that at?
At 420post.com on Facebook. Then, of course, we do once the show's over. As I frantically try to get all my video edited before I leave for Florida tomorrow, it'll also be on mimarijuanareport.com. So if you can't watch it live, you can watch it when you want.
There we go.
Thanks, Mike.
We appreciate you, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andrew. We're going to do the Hemper is going to do his recipe now. So
yeah, I'll do the recipe and then we'll get back into a little other news that we have. So, Mike's left. No, Mike's still there. Okay, there's Mike.
Nope, you got to. For some reason, it's not working. So drop me out of the. Oh, there we go.
Got it. Found
many things were on
You're
my
gonna want to come back
here.
and watch the recipe, Mike, because it's a great recipe for the upcoming March Madness. So.
All right, sounds great. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Yep. And as soon as Dave, have you got that recipe, Becky?
I do.
There we go. Wait a second. Well, we're not dressed yet. Hold on, gotta get dressed. There we go. There we are. So this is a really, really simple, we've talked about this before. I love to make simple, easy things because that's always important for me, time-wise. But this is a garlicky, cheesy hemp spread. And there's about 12. That's that. We're going to give credit where credit is due there. That's Nicole, Dan Ray, Russet. It's sure to please, and that's a true statement. It's really simple. Half a cup of nutritional yeast, half a cup of hemp seeds, 2 1/4 tablespoons of organic misto, white, mellow white or chickpea. I kind of like chickpeas myself, but 3/4 tablespoons garlic powder and a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar.
Well, it's good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, throw that all into a blender. If you've got a food processor that works, and you can also just mix it with the spoon if you want to. That's fine. Just know that the hemp seeds will be, you'll have the hemp seed chunks, the pieces of them, which is fine. That's a great way to do. And serve them with your favorite chips or crackers because, folks, it's March Madness for sure right now.
We need dips and chips.
Yeah, I know that Mike didn't want to hear the score, and I don't know what it is yet, but. I know that they're finishing up their game this afternoon early here, and then of course Michigan State will play a little later. So, and then hey, we go into the big dance. So, looking for that. So, again, want to talk about the Expo, the Power of Hemp and Cannabis, coming up in May. Again, the 19th, we're going to have that training. So, anybody that's thinking about getting certified, and I can tell you, folks, I don't mean to say it this way, but it's going to be the truth. If you're currently making any CBD products, now that we've switched over to MRA, I would assume that sometime down the near future, you're going to have be certified somehow, that you're doing the product in a safe environment and putting out a safe and healthy product. So just be prepared for that. This is great training. It's really inexpensive. It's going to be $300 if you're not an iHemp member. It's $200 if you are. Normally, you would pay $900 or better for a day of this. Pete Nielsen, I've worked with him for quite a while. He is a great speaker and very knowledgeable on the topic that we're going to have, and he'll show you how to get yourself ready for doing that in the future. So we'll have that information out shortly.
You'll find that in the store. The certification GACP for growers. So you'll find that right in the store.
Yep. So again, March Madness prices on right now for all that stuff. So on that. Yep. Another thing coming up. Now this is interesting. I'm gonna try to get on this next week. While I'm going to be down in Florida as well, soaking up a little sunshine down there. Hemp Open Spaces is going to be March 16th from 1 to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's a virtual event for the hemp industry. They're kind of doing a different format on it, and it'll be interesting to see this. Basically, it's driven by the participants and the people that are going to be there. A lot of people that we know are going to be on this particular segment that they're going to have. Jody McGinnis from the Hemp Industry Association, he's going to be on the panel. Jacob Weidel from U.S. Hemp Building Association. And Zeb Pass. A lot of you may not know Zeb, but Zeb's the one that started the website Raw Hemp. It's a internet website for all kinds of industrial hemp products. So he's also going to be on there. So sounds like it's going to be a fun time. We have a code that we'll get up on the website. You can save a little bit on it. Normally it's $39. Normally it's $39, and we get $10 off. So that gets you $29 for that. So interesting. That's going to be Tyler Hoff is also going to be another one on there, and Michelle Bowden is another one that's going to be on there as well. So, and Justin Benton. So it sounds like a good host of characters there for sure. Again, I want to remind you about the donations that you can make to some Ukrainian refugees through Kurt Ryer, Hemp Today. They have a bed and breakfast. Basically, they've opened up to take in refugees there. And so if you want to do that, we'll have that up there on the site. I know they're raising a little bit of money now, but I know that if they have any excess funds there, that they, with their heart and where they are, they're going to spend it in the right place, even if they get excess funds. And so hopefully there. Midwest Hemp Council, Midwest Hemp Council and Purdue seek information on Midwest hemp processing facilities for Michigan, Kentucky, Illinois, and Wisconsin. So if you are a hemp processor and you want to get your name and information up on that, we'll get that up on the website as well. That you can go to that and get your information up there and spread that information around a little bit. Don't forget that the NOCO is coming up in a couple weeks. They've changed the location from where they were going to have it. If you just go to the NOCO website, you'll be able to get all the information from that and see about their great show.
Yeah, they moved up to the Gaylord. That's gonna be a nice facility.
Yeah, it looks really nice, and when you see a picture of the outside, Dave,
Yeah, we won't be able to use the Lazy River. No.
I don't think that's going to be running at that time. So, and we're just excited where things are going right now. More and more, we talk about people, and there's still a whole bunch of excitement in the industrial hemp industry.
Just a lot of work, a lot of education to do.
We're going to have a lot of stuff at the Expo on the building program. What materials are going to be available there. That's going to be the next huge segment that's going to take off for hemp growers. So that'll be coming. And this was a little interesting thing. Now, I don't think anybody wants to move to New York to do this yet, but New York hemp farmers can grow marijuana under a 2-year program. And again, before you jump into that, think, oh, that's going to be fun. Let's go do that. They are limiting the number of acres you can grow to like 1 acre and some square footage and grow lights and everything.
Yeah, and it's just for growers that grew for the last 2 years in New York State.
Yeah, so
They can grow marijuana for a year. It's a little bit of a lottery win for them. So good for them. That's awesome.
So next show, we're going to have Matt with. They make a modular systems of framed hempcrete panels for faster builds. So just another interesting, Matt Moreno is the gentleman's name. And just another interesting way that we're finding where people are using and learning how to use this product for everyday things and cut our costs down. So
he's on the 24th.
On the 24th. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I jumping ahead that far? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I am. He's on the 24th. It's Jacob Weidel with U.S. Hemp Building Association that's going to be on next week.
Thank you for the voice behind the curtain.
Yes, we didn't have that voice behind the curtain. I don't know how we would ever do anything correctly.
I have no idea.
Good thing we got somebody watching out for us. But
Yes, sir.
let's see, Dave. I can't. Also, Michigan National Farmers Union has a grant still available for anybody that may be doing fresh produce, fruit, that kind of stuff, to be able to help them write their food safety plan. So we got a little bit of time on that. But our grant runs out right now at the end of April. So if you're interested in that, you need to jump on that right away so we can get your handbook done and get that done for you. So it's a free cost.
Andy,
Yep. It's free cost. So
Andy just popped a question in the chat, and Andy, it's a unique circumstance in New York. What happened? They're just starting their recreational marijuana program, so there's not existing licensees or anything in place currently in New York State. So they threw it to the hemp growers for 1 year to be able to grow marijuana, is the way I read it. Maybe you read it differently, Blaine, but and they had to have grown hemp for the last 2 years. So it's not going to happen here in Michigan. We're not getting any big lottery wins here.
what we are hoping as we move forward is that now that we'll get a little more help from the state in order to build.
Yeah, if we just get the fair, all along we've just asked for fair regulation so we can move the industry forward. But it's insane when you have bankers asking how much THC is in your plastic Frisbee. It's like, so we have to overcome these hurdles yet. It's very frustrating.
It is, but we're knocking them down. We're a little at a time. And these expos
and Michigan's a good state to do business, so we're going to be okay in the long run.
USDA, their series that they have going on, just want to let the next one coming up is going to be March 23rd. That's on next Wednesday, and they do these at, I believe it's noon. The endocannabinoid system by Dr. Ethan Russo, MD. So I think that's going to be a good one to watch. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the endocannabinoid system and how CBD reacts to that system in our body. So,
all right, very good.
I think that's about all. I just wanted to, let me see, Dave. I'm going to try one more time to screen share somehow. Anyways,
you're welcome, Andy. Thank you.
Everything probably except for what I want to show. So you told me how to do this. Anyways, just want to give another shout out to our newest member. Here we go. Biochar. Does it come out now? Or is it still
Yes.
showing me? Okay, there we go. So Biochar, we want to thank you very much for being one of our newest members and being one of our new exhibitors at the Expo. So
Yeah, it's a cool product. All right, excellent.
Dave, anything else you got?
No, sir.
All right.
I think we're good. All right. I got to go get some hemp frisbees printed. So call me if you need hemp frisbees. I got some.
All right. See y'all next week.